Vrchat. Well, technically this is Minecraft, just on the Vrchat platform, but Vrchat, there is truly nothing like it, a platform where you can virtually communicate with people all around the world. It really is a feat in technology and the human race, and that's all there is to say about it. What the fuck is that?
Let's see, I have Phantom Touch, Phantom Pain, Phantom Sense, Phantom Smell, Phantom Taste, Phantom Pregnancy, I have a lot of it.
Yeah, it's that time of year again. The time for the annual Vrchat video where we jump once again into the belly of the beast that from the outside is perceived to be people seemingly wearing their mental illnesses as badges.
What the fuck? No!
Apparently it's also the epicenter for dissociative identity disorder, or DID, with it being a regular occurrence to come across someone who has it, like it's really common for some reason. You have people spending most of their time staring at themselves and others through mirrors. Your average world being congested with so many poorly optimized avatars with multiple toggles, with most being over 100 megabytes a piece, resulting in my PC seizing up.
What?
And my bandwidth being essentially face. The humping of pixels on the platform is normal to hear about. There's even a whole monetized industry for it now.
Your winged flows prostitute and she's your pimp. And you have sex with people in VR for $10 an hour?
Not $10 exact. Well, she said $10.
Yes, you can pay 5 whole goober dollars for what is essentially a solo cardio session of hip thrusting and self-meat tenderizing, which comes with the added side effect of disgusting anyone that has to witness said actions outside of the headset. Some people actually living in the game and competing for the most hours played.
I built this shit! Me! Brick by brick!
You also have a predator problem on the platform, and moderation, which itself has a lot of contention surrounding it, and a whole lot of femboys. I haven't seen this many in the wild since they started to adopt VTubing. But each to their own, you do you. This is basically what Vrchat has been known for a number of years, and it's all totally accurate. Or is it? We'll speak more about that later. But this is my 3rd annual video on the topic, excluding the other videos about specific niches surrounding the platform, but it's almost been 2 years now since that first video. And obviously I don't need to tell you what Vrchat is, I've gave you the David Attenborough special each time when explaining it, and I'm about to do it again. Not really. I already know half of you have an attention span cooked beyond repair, and the other half have me in the background whilst their colony is about to get hit by a solar flare, or if their mother consumed too much Tylenol when they were a fetus, they are probably dealing with a resource shortage due to a bottleneck they can't seem to find in their maze of belts and machines they've made. So, I'll keep it simple. I wouldn't really say Vrchat is really a game, it's more of a social platform best experienced in VR. There are no clear goals to complete or any ways to win unlike normal games, unless you count interacting with the absolute dregs of society as a victory.
Come on, it's a good song. See, he doesn't even speak English.
But all there mainly is to do is interact with other people. You could maybe join the handful of minigame worlds that are slowly dying, because most world developers, due to the game being mainly community ran, have taken a page out of Valve's book and work on everything but games. There's plenty of cozy worlds though. Sometimes way too many if you ask me. But despite the main thing to do on Vrchat being to socialise, which may be asking too much for most of you who are socially inept, and it being initially released in 2014, it would go on to see a huge success in 2017. Not just down to it now being available on the Steam platform, but also with the rise of content created around it. Mainly the Uganda Knuckles meme.
Do you know the way?
I know the way.
You have to have Ebola to know the way.
Uganda Knuckles, I'm pretty sure, is indirectly responsible for where Vrchat is in the present, and is still what most people know it for to this day. And without it, Vrchat would have probably died. Onwards into 2019 and early 2020, it got even more popular due to more content creators and streamers playing it.
The big whale at the back! Big whale!
No.
Get the whale out! Snorlax! I did not choose you! Get the f*** off the stage!
And due to everyone being inside at the time and being socially deprived as a result of the COVID lockdown, this would result in Vrchat once again prospering and seeing a high player count. And this is also where a lot of people that still play to this day were introduced to the platform, well, that and the Uganda Knuckles craze. But later on you had the worst mistake Vrchat has ever made, which is a hill I will vehemently defend and die on, which was making the game available to the Quest 2, leading to an influx of kids, which in my opinion changed the landscape of Vrchat as a whole, especially public lobbies, with most being turned into inhospitable daycares.
But I'm not
Is that not the only insult?
Leading a majority of PC and legacy players to go into private instances instead of public ones, which is still a thing to this day. And then going past 2021, Vrchat faced a few years of barely any significant updates, where the game sort of stagnated for a bit before receiving regular updates and recently getting pushed back into the forefront of the internet once again. But that is a brief synopsis of Vrchat, and yeah, it's been 2 years since we started doing this, and a lot has changed since that first video. The first being this. I think this was a great addition to the game, first good thing they've added in the past decade, but please make it so I can spam it and give people an auditory aneurysm. And also, the content surrounding Vrchat has dramatically changed from what it used to be, where it was previously things like people mutually having fun in lobbies like this.
You wanna see my final form? You like jazz?
But in the last year and a half, it's more turned into showcasing the absolute worst people present on this game.
My daughter has PTSD with weapons and phantom pain. We told him that. He pulled a fucking gun, chased her around, and shot her, saying, "Do you feel that? Do you feel that? Do you feel that?"
My son is the owner of this world. You are talking the wrong way to the wrong fucking person, and I'm not in the mood for it.
I mentioned this in the previous video where Vrchat trolling was somewhat still emerging, still in its infancy if you will, and now it's everywhere. It's probably the most watched content surrounding Vrchat, that and maybe predator hunting videos, but these videos are responsible for once again pushing Vrchat back into the forefront of the internet, and I'm all for it. I've been consuming that content like a starving citizen of a third world country. I just personally hope to God that some of the people in said videos are paid actors, because fucking hell, I would rather be slowly skinned alive via sandpaper than experience the hell that is having a conversation with the people these channels find.
Basically, me and him had a child together in VR, and he refused to be the father.
He was the biological father?
Of my phantom child, yes.
What happens to a child who isn't loved properly? The answer one might expect.
Honestly, I do hope to God these are paid actors and people like this genuinely don't exist, but content like this has once again introduced a lot more people to Vrchat, with some either trying it out to see if it's as bad as it is in the videos, which, to be honest, with my experience, it's not. These people have a very low spawn rate and you have to almost seek them out in specific worlds or groups, and then there's the people that try Vrchat to attempt to recreate the content they have seen and successfully ragebait people in lobbies, with what is labelled the proximity chat clone epidemic. Named after the largest channel doing this type of content, Proximity Chat, who basically barely encourages this behaviour he encounters. Oftentimes these specimens just make the content for him, and he needs to add little to no fuel to the fire at all.
The thing is, I'm horny now. Maddie would have more of a chance of helping me and probably wanting to help me, but...
Are you asking this guy's girlfriend to have sex with you?
As much as I want it to happen, I know she's not allowed.
Oh my gosh.
And these videos have also led to the name Proximity Chat becoming something on the same lines as a slur, as just mentioning his name in some of these communities will lead to the most visceral reactions, either leading them to immediately abandon the lobby in fear, or treating it as if that one Austrian painter who had a hand in World War II had just waltzed into the lobby with the stories they recount of his terrible crimes he had apparently performed on Vrchat.
Mr. White, he's the devil.
And Proximity Chat has actually been known to fucking kill people, have people killed by people showing up at their houses.
We'll do whatever it takes
Just get under people's skin.
Most of the time he just sits in the corner and lets these people talk themselves into a deeper hole. Like, how is he being talked about like he's Jeffrey Dahmer? Like, what variant of Fent are these people consuming? Or did lead fuel really have that much of an impact on future generations? There's also been content like Marcus, uploaded by Rufflegate, which recently blew up and went viral, pushing it outside the reach of just VRchat players. You know, the thing that looks like a tall circumcised worm, or XQC, with a voice deeper than any Discord e-boy.
Robert, help.
What do you need help? What do you need help with?
I can't get down. It's too high.
Marcus, just let go.
I'm scared.
Just let go.
Robert, help.
Okay, this music is not suiting for what's happening right now. This is very out of...
And Marcus is actually piloted by one of Rufflegator's mutes, Jufa. If me calling them one of Rufflegator's mutes caused concern, don't worry. It does sometimes happen that mutes in VRchat are treated like voluntary collectibles who may or may not be a blue-collar worker behind their headset, but Rufflegator has a lot of mutes. But just remember, not all mutes are like this, and some mutes are mute for a reason. But Marcus got so big people are making third-party merchandise of it and even uploading clips of it on different platforms, and also sending copyright takedowns to Rufflegator when he uploads to the same platform, even though he actually made the content. The internet really is lovely, isn't it? But yeah, VRchat for like the third time has been put back into the public eye, and the platform, as I always say, is nowhere near dying. It dominates the niche it resides in, even with events like in mid-2022 when they removed modding capabilities for VRchat, which included things like performance fixes to this very, very unoptimized platform, and it fixed a lot of things in general, like full body, which was very finicky back then, and your perspective was always messed up when you did things like laid down. And of course, there was NSFW mods where you could physically interact with other people's avatars, like dragging players around on a leash, which most just used to hang people in the middle of a Black Cat lobby, but a lot of these mods fixed the platform, made it more customizable and enjoyable, and they took that all away in one update, adding easy anti-cheat and making it almost impossible to mod it anymore, which pissed a lot of people off, and some were attempting to boycott the platform, saying they were going to go to other platforms like Chill Out VR, which was said to be a more optimized version of VRchat, but long term ended up dying, because one, some people found a way around the anti-cheat, two, VRchat in the years to come actually just implemented most of what those mods did into the actual platform. Yes, even indirectly including the player interaction thing, which totally hasn't been used on avatars for ulterior motives, and some other features being locked behind the VRC Plus paid subscription. And third, before they actually implemented these features they took away, people crawled back anyway. Because face it, there is nothing like VRchat. If any of you said Roblox VR is a good alternative, I would just like you to look at the flowers real quickly. Just keep looking at the flowers, thank you. But VRchat is dominating the social VR experience, and it's going to keep dominating for the years to come, as most platforms that attempt to do what VRchat does just genuinely fail. Because why would most jump ship to another platform that does exactly what VRchat does, when VRchat still exists and there's more people playing it? There really is no point. But just because VRchat for the 5th time is dominating this niche, I sound like such a VRchat glazer right now, it doesn't mean it's exactly a perfect platform. Actually, VRchat has a lot of problems and faces a lot of criticism on the daily, and said criticism isn't exactly wrong. Now, one of the biggest critiques of VRchat is regarding moderation, or lack thereof, and sometimes even criticism towards the VRchat team themselves. As through another Brandon FM video on VRchat, it was found that a VRchat developer, someone hired by VRchat and someone that had access to the VRchat systems and backend, and was basically abusing their role, sharing sensitive VRchat information and much more, on top of having a very concerning past and track record to say the least. And in Brandon FM's words, some of this was shown to other VRchat developers and staff, yet allegedly nothing was done about it. Well, until the video went live. And the VRchat team did actually acknowledge it, saying they are looking into the situation.
We are aware of a video that got posted earlier today. From time to time, companies of our size receive allegations involving employees, and we take all these matters seriously. We've become aware of this video, like we know about it. We're reviewing the situation carefully in line with our standard process. Out of respect for those involved, we're not going to be sharing additional details here. So if you're here to ask questions about it, we're not going to be able to answer them while that review is ongoing.
Now, if this video by Brandon FM is correct and is to be trusted, then this also wasn't the first time Vrchat only acknowledged something and took action after a video was made. As going back a year, Brandon FM made another video which went viral, mainly talking about how Vrchat isn't safe for kids, and this led them to start testing and implementing age verification earlier than intended, which is something they said they were going to release soon anyway. But obviously it's worrying that people have to make videos about these problems just to get a reaction or response from the Vrchat team, even when in one case they supposedly had been made aware of these issues before said video had released. And even more confusing, as I mentioned in my previous video, apparently when discussing claims against Vrchat through their community channels, often messages would be deleted and users banned from mentioning them, but at the same time messages and claims against those who made these videos were allowed to stay up. Another critique regarding moderation I often hear, and something I've been against, is age verification itself and it being behind a paywall, with said paywall being their subscription service Vrchat Plus. Now, to be fair, if you subscribe for just 1 month and verify within that month, you do keep your age verification going onwards even if you don't pay for the next month. And to give it to Vrchat, they have recently talked about this, and it's down to cost. They use a third-party company to verify people's ages, which costs them money.
We've had a lot of people ask us, essentially, when will it be free for everyone? Honestly, the answer is it probably won't be. Age verification costs us money, and opening it up to everyone is just something we can't do right now.
Now you could say, you know, other platforms like Roblox do their age verification for free, they actually use the same one Vrchat does, so why can't Vrchat also do it for free? Their estimated revenue is apparently 28 million per year, and they've released their own store which must be making some money to cover said cost. Well, I don't think Vrchat is remotely anywhere as big as Roblox, and I don't think they're going to give us an in-depth look into their finances anytime soon. So as of right now, you can't really say or prove Vrchat is lying about why it isn't free. Personally, I hope in the future they find a way around this, and they did say they are looking into it. They could potentially do it in-house, but I don't think everyone would trust Vrchat with said information. I don't even think some trust the third-party company doing it now. But with the paywall and potentially some people not wanting to age verify, it's led to some groups that maybe don't have a lot of people that are age verified but still have 18 plus settings to not use the verified adult only lobbies, and they check ages the old fashioned way, where they ask when you were born, and if you are underage they hope you can't do simple math. I'm 20, 50, 11, 2005.
Alrighty, you are good to go, man. I am going to send you an invite to the group.
And just like that, I got instant access to the lobby. I wouldn't really entirely put this down to Vrchat moderation, believe me, things were a lot worse before age verification. This is more of a Vrchat group problem, and it's not every group, but it's something that commonly happens on the platform. But this leads on to what I wanted to talk about next, and that is, in my opinion, kids should not be playing Vrchat, which is very hypocritical of me because I started playing Vrchat when I was a kid, and to be honest, I grew up around this platform, which is really fucking sad to say out loud. I really do need to reevaluate my life. But one of my first experiences in the first week I joined was learning what a Dominus sub was, because the British education system didn't really teach that. But this argument at this point has been hammered all the way home, that this platform isn't entirely safe for kids. And it's often followed by the predator problem Vrchat faces, which you also see a lot about online. It's almost reiterated in every video that speaks critically of Vrchat, and it's probably going to be reiterated 1,000 more times because it is a problem. A good example I often use is one of the most notorious predators of Vrchat, Tech Gangster, and if you somehow have not heard of him, there's so many videos about him, but this clip will probably be enough to fill you in.
13!
You know what? You know what's funny? I'll still jack off to them.
I've had both.
This guy is still on the platform, people still see him quite regularly, often in the presence of those underage, and he shows no remorse for his actions.
She's 15 years old.
No, she's
We all
actually
know this.
12. She's 12.
15
She's
years
12.
old, dude, and you just said that shit.
And his accounts do get banned, but he always comes back, each time with a different alt account. And it does beg the question, what is Vrchat doing about this? It's been multiple years since this guy started doing this on the platform. And when you report people like Tech Gangster, as it states on their website, they do supposedly get in contact with legal authorities. And to give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe something is being done behind the scenes, but like many others, I can only comment on what I see. I still see him on the platform continuing to do what he does. And you see a new Vrchat Predator Exposed video almost every week, but you should still report these people if you're encountering them to Vrchat, to online organizations, and if possible directly to law enforcement. Vrchat in general, with what you see with avatars, some of the worlds, to the groups of the game, and in my opinion, still isn't for kids. But that doesn't mean as soon as kids play this game they are immediately exposed to the worst of humanity. I'm sure a lot of lobbies are completely fine. And it's not like Vrchat staff are completely unaware of what happens on their platform. A lot of them are past players, and they have briefly mentioned or referenced it in some of their live streams. And to once again be fair to Vrchat, they are facing quite the pickle. They either drastically childproof their game, like removing the option to upload avatars and you can only access avatars on their store checked by them, or they do the thing Roblox does where you utter a single syllable of a bad word and you're sent to the void, or they fully commit to being an adult platform. But either way, they lose a good chunk of their player base and potentially kill their platform, where people will just mass migrate to another platform and the same issue will repeat. And this conundrum is not unique to Vrchat. Once again mentioning Roblox, that has rightfully been treated like a public outhouse lately, and it faces the same issues. A platform that I would say that has predominantly been for kids, yet can't decide fully if it is for kids or adults, leading to some very questionable choices they have doubled down on. But going back to Vrchat, there's an attempt to find a middle ground between the adult and non-adult, and yes, it isn't perfect, but credit where credit is due, they have been trying and they can only do so much. Parents do share the responsibility and should see what their kids are doing on this platform. It is a 13+ with adult supervision, arguably should be much higher. And staff can't be in every lobby, they can't stop every bad actor. And they have been making changes to things like the report system, and they've recently said they are dedicating more money to user safety and security. But only time will tell. What I can say is I hope Vrchat is more careful about who they employ. Once again, if that Brandon FM video is true, I hope we get clarification or even transparency of why some things are the way they are on the platform. And I hope they keep working and eventually find the answer to some of the problems the platform faces. Nope, I'm with you. We are not doing a segment like this for this platform. It in no way deserves it. This is the most degenerate platform I have ever seen. If you couldn't tell, I absolutely fucking hate Vrchat. I thought it was obvious, to be honest. I hate it as much as your average Siege player hates playing Siege.
Take SSP, have some funky strats. How are we losing a post plan? God damn!
I hate it like how your average Tarkov player hates going into a raid just to be the only one not hacking. I hate it like your average Overwatch player who has to force themselves to play the game when we all know it died years ago and there's probably more effort being done by the Rule 34 creators than the actual game devs. But don't worry, they just added another Kiriko skin. But the correlation I'm trying to make here, maybe except the Overwatch player, is sometimes despite being completely frustrated with something and saying you hate it, some will still keep interacting with said thing, either down to nostalgia of when it was better, or the good old days if you will, or through the frustration, they still have love for it. I'm a bit of both. Yes, this is the cheesy part of the video. If you have lactose intolerance, I hope you drop your guts in the toilet. Yes, I do love Vrchat. I have 3,000 hours in the game. And what people most commonly ask me is how? How do you have that many hours in a game where most of the time all you do is talk? And that's the part of Vrchat you don't often hear about. Yes, the loudest voice you hear regarding this platform is the cringe, the horny, and the problems. But that is not all there is to it. The quieter part is the communities, the events. that people put a lot of effort into, with some that you didn't even think would be possible in virtual reality. The community made worlds, from the small little cozy rooms to the huge outdoor areas that look amazing, to the horror maps, to the dying minigames, to the let's grind hours doing actual slave labour to build a virtual Tower of Babel. Or it's going into a public lobby, not knowing anyone, you find someone making an absolute fool of themselves and you express such, and it turns out the person next to you also shares that opinion and you start talking, the subject changing from interest to their terrible excuse of why they are always in a female avatar, and by the end of it they send you a friend request, and like many other people on the platform, you accept it with the knowledge you will probably never talk to this person ever again. And if you somehow do, it will be the usual awkward interaction of the two of you trying to remember how the fuck they got on your friends list. But the next day they do join you again in a public lobby, and the day after that, again. You actually start playing games other than Vrchat together, but you do both occasionally come back to the platform, and years later you're shooting guns with them in Florida and they still wear female avatars. Or alternatively, some fucknut with their friends group decide to troll you, but you take it on the chin and you actually join them in trolling people, and years later he still calls you slurs for being white and you're trying to find an effective one for him. You just haven't found it yet. Trial and error, I will find it soon. Or simply you beat an absolute idiot at chess and make fun of him for playing Fortnite, and months later you beat his ass in a 1v1 in Fortnite, and years later you still talk. Now I get it, all of these interactions can happen anywhere on the internet, but Vrchat is a bit different. Every time you log on, it's a different experience, a different perspective. Not every lobby is the same, and that is coming from someone that started this platform with no interest in it, or any interest in interacting with strangers online. But somehow, I did. And on your journey, you slowly start to understand why people obsess over this platform. Obviously, there's some that take that to a worrying level, almost breathing and living in Vrchat, and you are going to occasionally encounter the unsavory parts of this platform, but once again, that isn't every lobby or every person, and I think there's something for everyone on this platform. And once again, there really is nothing like Vrchat, but I will say, in my opinion, it's only enjoyable with friends. Doing it solo is like dragging your balls through shards of glass. Now, for those of you still wondering about those 3,000 hours of apparently just talking to people, to be truthful, if I had to break it down, a good percentage of that was watching movies with friends, when they had worlds with all the movies loaded into them, even the new ones, before they had to remove all of them, probably due to copyright. World hopping was another thing I did a lot, looking at what the community had made. Minigames was a big one, especially when I first started, still waiting for Freeze Tag to come back from the grave. Then there's going into publics, talking to people, but most times it just turns into judging people from afar. People watching is a small hobby of mine. You would not believe how many therapy sessions and breakdowns people have had in public worlds. It is genuinely entertaining. It's my personal slop content where I can feel better about myself, knowing I'm not the person that got caught cheating on their IRL husband with someone on Vrchat and for some reason they decided to vent about it in a public lobby. I also sometimes meet some of you degenerates in these publics in which I tell you you've got the wrong person, you're crazy, I don't sound like that person, I don't know that name, and that you should probably promptly combust. But despite shitting on this platform so much, I do still like it. Yes, I do miss the old days where publics were more sociable and tolerable, and yes, the platform does have a lot of issues, but for the last time, it's not everywhere. And in the current day, if you tell anyone in a social setting you regularly play Vrchat, it is still a death sentence. But that is Vrchat. This may be the last annual Vrchat video unless something drastic happens or changes with the platform, but you will still be getting your occasional Vrchat colonoscopy surrounding specific topics that catch my attention, because I did just pay for a world and an avatar, and yes, it may be a tax write-off, but I may as well get some use out of them. Also, thank you to Mart for making this world, by the way, but there isn't really much else to say, except fuck you, and bye-bye.